across the water at sunset. "I'm going to build a boat," he declared one night at supper. "Then I can row out upon the river and truly explore it." Henry was 16 years old. He had repaired fences and window frames, but he had never built anything bigger than a bird box before. There was silence after his announcement, but it only lasted the moment it took for the rest of Henry's family to catch up to his idea. "2 seats, perhaps," said John Sr. He pushed his knife and fork into parallel lines on the tablecloth, "so you could carry a passenger." Helen added her cutlery to her father's to show the triangular prow of the boat, and John used his knife and fork to simulate the oars. Sophia grabbed the little mustard pot from the center of the table and placed it in the middle of the makeshift boat. "There you are," she said, "happily rowing on the river after supper." "What will you call your boat?" asked Cynthia. "It will be a doorway to adventure," said Henry. "I will call it the Rover." At Harvard, Henry was put in rooms with Charles Wheeler, the son of a farmer from Lincoln, the town just next to Concord. They had been children together in the one-room schoolhouse, but had not spent much time together as young men. Henry thought Charles's cheerfulness at first to be simplicity, not to be trusted, but this assumption proved false. Charles's mind was sharp and his devotion to learning even deeper than Henry's. He was studying Greek and planned to become a clergyman. They warmed their spirits with talk of poetry and God, and warmed their room by placing a cannonball in the fire until it was red hot, and then standing it in a skillet on the floor between them. Even though the Revolutionary War was long over, its materials were still plentiful, and each student room was given a cannonball for heat upon the start of the Harvard term. There was no time to explore the woods and fields. Classes were rigorous, and there was only a half-day off on Saturday. They both confessed to missing their families. "Shall we walk home and see them, then?" said Henry, on their 5th weekend at college. It was over 14 miles to Concord. Henry got blisters and had to walk barefoot for the last 2 miles, a cold undertaking in October. But when he opened the front door of the Thoreau home, his family rushed towards him like bees towards blossom. The notes from Sophia's piano piece still hung sweetly in the air, and there was the smell of wood smoke on John's shirt when he put both arms around his brother and hugged Henry to his chest. "No time for even a bowl of soup," said Charles when they met a half-hour later at the crossroads for the return walk. They needed to be back at Harvard before evening curfew, or would be punished for their absence. Henry's blistered feet, so painful on the walk home to Concord, seemed not to hurt at all on the return journey to the university. Henry liked the library at Harvard and the never-ending plenitude of volumes he was able to borrow from it. He enjoyed sitting quietly with Charles in their room in early evening, both of them reading while the light at the window flickered over the pages of their books. He was not partial to the insistence on academic drills from the instructors in place of lecture or discussion, nor the raucous activities of the other students. Almost every night, it seemed, he was awakened by drunken laughter and the loud crash of cannonballs being rolled down the wooden staircase outside his room. So, when he became ill during his 3rd year at Harvard and had to return home to rest, Henry was only half sorry to go. Henry walked to Fairhaven Cliffs with John. Out of breath from the climb, they threw themselves down in the grass at the top. They were as high as the birds up here, and Henry liked to sometimes think of himself that way, slicing across the face of the cliff or shivering up an air current to hang in the sky above the trees and distant river. "When you're finished your studies, we should finally go on our river trip," said John. He was peering down over the edge. "We could build our own boat, a bigger one than the Rover, one suited to an expedition." Henry rolled over so he was lying next to his brother. They both looked out below to the band of water looping through the woods. "I have to go back to school before I can finish it," said Henry. He had been suffering from a bout of consumption, the disease that had killed his grandfather and which afflicted both his father and sister Helen as well. "But you're